All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Movies in the Minefield. I'm your host, Maddie, aka the Real Critter Brown. And yes, in case you were wondering, I will be shoehorning the word minefield into basically everything I do with this media endeavor. It's just fun. So yeah, we have a movie stream for y'all. This is our first movie, and no, actually our second. So this should be episode 2, but that's gonna doesn't matter anyway. Because we did the Under the Silver Lake stream. I forgot about that one. This is our second movie stream, I think. I don't know. I lost track. But anyway, so we're back at it, and we had a fun stream Friday night. If y'all haven't checked that one out, it's worth a listen. We're kind of serious in the first half, and then we just had a good time in the second half. Friend of the show, Bazed Analyzer, called in, and he and Jerry from Exposing Powerful Lies are basically regulars at this point on the show, which is great. I love having them on. They're always a lot of fun to talk to, and as long as they want to keep coming on, the door is open. And so speaking of Bazed Analyzer, going to bring him in here. How's it going?
Yo, what's up? This is our channel now. We took it over. Yes. So what's up, man? Yeah, thank you so much for having us again. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. So yes, your second movie analysis here. You did the Under the Silver Lake. That was good.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about this film. I think I'm going to have a different perspective about this film than you two guys have. So maybe you'll be the middle, and then the two of us, Jerry and I, will balance it out. So thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm interested to hear what y'all have to say about this one. Real quick, actually, one thing. Since we were talking about music the other night, you mentioned Fort Romeo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Have you listened to that EP he did with the bass player from Vampire Weekend?
You mean Rostam Batmanglish?
No, it was Chris Bayo.
Oh,
Rostam was the keyboardist.
Mm.
It's called CYM.
Yes, I have that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was with Bayo. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that one. And then we talked about it. I was like, he did that EP with Bayo. So yeah.
Yeah, he did. The best one with Fort Romeo is the song Jack Rollin'. Jack Rollin'. You listen to the song Jack Rollin', dude.
Okay.
It's awesome. And then speaking of Rostam, have you heard Ezra Koenig's thing with Rah Rah Riot, Discovery?
It's been a while.
It's 2008, dude. Get the album Discovery. They did one album, and it's amazing.
Okay.
It's Rah Rah Riot, Ezra Koenig, and Rostam, I think, is in there. And yeah, it's really good if you like.
I need to pull that one, but yeah, I'm gonna make a note to listen to that one.
We got a huge audience here today.
Yeah, this is massive.
Yeah, because JD's over there streaming about John Wick. So
yeah.
So it's gonna be the three of us and John Adams. Yeah, thank you. Shouts out to John Adams out there.
Yes, thank you, John. Always great to see him in the chat. And also on the stream today, we have the man who gave me my start in streaming. I'm eternally grateful for that. He's always a great guest. He always brings the heat, as I like to say. It is Jerry from Exposing Powerful Lies Livestreams.
I'm drunk.
Oh man.
What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Oh man, I thought you were never gonna bring me on, dude. I was like, I'm in the digital gulag over on Digital Minefield. What's up, dude?
We do like to keep people in the gulag.
1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor.
Yeah. Yep, pretty much. What's up, y'all? I'm super happy to be here. I wasn't gonna do this, and then when I heard that we were covering S. Craig Zahler, I was like, oh, I'm totally in, because he's definitely my favorite filmmaker at the moment. Like I was telling you before the show started, Brawl in Cell Block 99 is my favorite film at the moment. So, yeah, when I found his movies, I found him like recently, and then I realized, he had only made 3 films, and I found Bone Tomahawk first, and I watched, and my mind was blown. I was like, this is so good. And then I found Brawl in Cell Block 99 and was like, this is my new favorite movie. And then saw this one next, and it's a great film. I do think that this is his weakest film, but since he's such a G, like, it's not saying much, because I mean, this is a great movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious, Bazed, you the way you just sort of predicated this. I'm curious what your takeaway from this film is.
Well,
definitely, I think that S. Craig Zahler has shown that he is got some Bazed opinions, even though he's in Hollywood, so he's got to sort of like, hide it a little bit, but he seems like he's pretty outright with it, like in Brawl and Select 99, how it's very much like patriotic, anti-crime, sort of like, I don't know, he just seems like more of a conservative type,
Well, I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about him.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't know about his, I mean, I just
his
know
films. I could tell you all his story, but like, I don't know him personally.
So where you want to start, Kuski?
Yeah, I was curious. I guess we kind of touched on a little bit, but I know we don't do reviews over here, but I was just curious as to what y'all's kind of overall impression of the film is.
I really liked it. I mean, we could cover the basic plot first. Probably we should for the people who haven't seen it, and then we can give our reactions to it, our takeaways from it, and then we can get into sort of the themes. Probably that would be a good structure. You want me to? I could try to read this, y'all. I never drank, and I had a couple. I had like one shot of tequila and a beer, and I'm like twisted right now, dude. Oh my goodness! All right, but let's.
Man, you got a lot more going than me, dude. Can I tell you about my morning real quick before we start?
Tell us about your morning.
Let's have it.
So I got this car, right? Fucking shit, dude. So last night, I look at the car, the gauge is going and it's got the flat tire, right? Thing. And I'm like, oh no, it was just the cold from before. And then it kind of went off. And then last night when I got out of the house, I looked and there was a screw in the tire. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, again. I mean, I've had so many screws. I've been screwed by the screws in the tires. So today I went over to the Wawa and I took a flathead, a Phillips head, and my little kit, right? And I went over there and I unscrewed the screw. The screw broke off in the tire. So there's like this much screw, tiny screw. So I got to fucking saw the have you ever plugged a tire before? You got to it's counterintuitive because you stick this puncture thing in the tire and you got to saw it. You got to saw the tire. And then I should have waited till the tire deflated completely to do it. It would have been easier. And then you got to stick the thing in. And then I ran out of epoxy for the plugs. Not a great story. I ran out of epoxy for the thing. And I had 7 people come by. Yo, homeboy, you doing all right? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm just fucking trying to do this thing. And then finally I had to use my foot and push the plug into the tire. I got that plugged in, inflated. So now I'm good to go. Hopefully, knock on wood. Man, what a
tires,
dude. What a feeling of elation when you get the plug in the tire and then it inflates and then you drive off. You just feel like, oh yeah, I'm a king. And then and I went in the Wawa, and this has made my day. I went in the Wawa, I got my Red Bulls and stuff. And the lady said, all right, thank you, honey. How you doing? And then she said, bye, sugar. And I said, yes. Cashier lady called me honey and sugar.
That does feel good. It always feels good when they're sweet.
Made my day. I drove home. I was so pumped about that. So,
before we start, y'all, we gotta show hard, since our homeboy, our hard-working Bazed analyzer over here hasn't made a single dime today except from Kutski's super chat. Y'all support the show. If you guys send in thousands of dollars to Kutski, we'll split it 3 ways.
Yes.
Let's support the show.
Yeah. Yes. What's your Cash App, Coot?
It's in the description. I was too lazy to go pull the link back up, so I just put the tag. It's like the $ and then MarvinGardens, capital M, capital G.
Well, put a proper link in there and put it in the chat so somebody can click on it while Jerry and I talk.
I think I'm the only mod here, unfortunately. But and please pardon my me being a little tipsy. I had a rough week, and so my buddy was like, "You want some tequila?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So that's I don't hold my liquor very well. I really don't like drinking that much, but every once in a while I'll say, okay. So let's get into this film.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Dragged Across Concrete is a 2018 neo-noir crime thriller written and directed by S. Craig Zahler. It stars an ensemble cast that includes Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn, Tory Kittles, Michael Jai White, Jennifer Carpenter, Laurie Holden, Fred Melamed, Udo Kier, Thomas Kreischman, and Don Johnson. The story follows two childhood friends and two police detectives that are suspended for police brutality who, in a desperate need for money, are embroiled in a robbery done by a professional thief. Zahler started working on Dragged Across Concrete right after he finished development on his previous film, Brawl in Cell Block 99, which also starred Vince Vaughn, Carpenter, and Johnson. Vaughn recommended Zahler to Gibson, who he previously worked with in Hacksaw Ridge, and Gibson agreed to star in the film, later followed by Kittles and White. Filming took place in Vancouver, British Columbia, between July and September 2017, under a production budget of $15 million. It premiered at the 75th Venice International Film Festival on September 3rd, 2018, and received a limited theatrical and video-on-demand simultaneous release from Summit Entertainment on March 22nd, 2019. It was met with a mixed to positive critical reception, with praise directed toward Gibson's performance as well as its dark setting and themes, although it was criticized for its lengthy runtime, excessive violence, and what some critics perceived as right-wing bias due to its treatment on racism and police brutality. Like, what? This is Wikipedia, so of course. The film received several nominations at the 45th Saturn Awards, but also shortlisted for Worst Reckless Disregard for Human Life and Public Property at the 40th Golden Raspberry Awards. Now, we haven't even gotten into the plot really yet, but this is Wikipedia's take on it, which we're gonna have to talk about as far as like it was saying, oh, it was criticized for having a right-wing bias and stuff. It's like, yeah, you could tell that he's a more conservative guy in all of his films. You could tell that there was a little bit of subtext, but like, this film, like they die, they kill the fucking cops. Like, I don't see.
Yeah, I mean, they act like David Duke made this movie,
right?
And it's like it's absurd.
But I will say though, watching this, you're like, yeah, dude, finally, somebody in Hollywood's making a movie that isn't fucking lame. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about all those films. Anyways, let's get into the plot. In the fictional city of Bulwark, recent parolee Henry Johns chastises his mother for returning to prostitution and taking drugs before reuniting with his handicapped younger brother Ethan. 3 weeks later, police detectives Brett Ridgman and Anthony Lorenzetti are suspended without pay by the police department after a video leaked online revealing them committing police brutality on a drug dealer. Both detectives are desperate for money, with Ridgman needing cash to move to a safer neighborhood for his family, while Lorenzetti stalls in proposing to his girlfriend Denise. On a tip from Friedrich, a wealthy businessman with criminal connections, Ridgman recruits Lorenzetti to help him surveil and rob Lawrence Vogelman, a professional thief. Henry and his childhood friend Biscuit are hired by Vogelman as getaway drivers, whose men, Black Gloves and Gray Gloves, have committed a series of robberies to buy a customized bulletproof van. Vogelman and his crew then rob a bank, taking the employees and customers as hostage. A bank employee, Kelly Summers, who came back to work from her maternity leave, is shot and executed by the bank robbers after preventing a colleague from notifying the police via email, which that part is so messed up. We'll get into all this, but that part is so messed up, dude. The thieves castrate the bank manager and then escape with the bullion and a hostage, Cheryl, while being tailed by Ridgman and Lorenzetti, which Henry notices. Unsettled by Vogelman and his henchman's brutality, Henry and Biscuit are then forced to surrender their weapons. Realizing they may be killed, Henry chooses not to reveal to Biscuit or the thieves that they are being followed by the detectives. Lorenzetti learns of the atrocities committed by the thieves and berates Ridgman for not intervening sooner or notifying the authorities. But Ridgman asserts that law enforcement would be too late, and only the two of them can deal with the thieves. Lorenzetti opts against delaying his marriage proposal to Denise and leaves a voicemail guiding her to the engagement ring. Arriving at a garage in the countryside, Biscuit leaps out of the van and is shot as Henry wounds Gray Gloves with a hidden gun. Mortally wounded, Biscuit swallows the van's key, imploring Henry to take care of his mother, and later is shot dead by the thieves. Cheryl is sent to pull Biscuit's body into the van, and Black Gloves cuts the key out of Biscuit's stomach as Ridgman and Lorenzetti arrive and then ram into the van, knocking it over on its side. Threatened by Vogelman, Cheryl seemingly escapes from the van, and as Lorenzetti attempts to rescue her, she shoots Lorenzetti, mortally wounding him, before being executed by Ridgman. Ridgman then quickly kills Black Gloves as he exits the van. Richmond hands the dying Lurisetti his phone, and he listens to the voicemail from Denise, who is telling him that she is denying his wedding proposal before finally he dies. And this is Vince Vaughn's character. I know it's probably hard for people who aren't familiar with the film, but basically Vince Vaughn is talking about how he's gonna propose to his girlfriend, and then he's like, nah, since we're doing this illegal shit, I'm gonna wait. And then on the way there, he's like, I'm just gonna tell her where the engagement ring is, and I gotta hear what her answer is. And then he listens to the voice, and her answer is no, which I found was funny. And then he dies. Ridgman fills the van with tear gas, which is Ridgman is the Mel Gibson character, and he kills Grey Gloves just as he surrenders. Before he can torch the van, Henry fires a warning shot and insists the valuable contents of the van be spared. Ridgman climbs on top of the van, kills Vogelman before the latter can shoot him through the retractable slit. Henry shoots Ridgman in the foot and reveals that he has recorded the entire incident on his cell phone and identifies Ridgman as a detective. Disarming Henry, Ridgman proposes that they split the score, and together they load the bodies and the bullion into the getaway car. Towing Lurisetti's car to a dump site, Ridgman reveals a hidden firearm and then threatens Henry to delete the video. Henry and Ridgman both shoot at each other, with Henry mortally wounding Ridgman. Henry agrees with the dying Ridgman to bury Lurisetti and take care of Ridgman's family, and later buries all the bodies and promises the deceased Biscuit that he will return and give him a proper burial one day. 11 months later, Henry lives in a lavish mansion with his mother and brother. He does send Ridgman's family a package containing a share of the gold bullion, and that's how the film ends. Dude, this movie's so good, man. It's so good. I hope I gave a proper explanation for that.
No, yeah, it was a pretty good rundown. Yeah, were you going to say something, BLI?
No, I was going to say your link doesn't work for CashApp.
Does it really?
Yes, it does not work.
I've worked on
your cash tag or whatever.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go make a new one.
All right, so what's my take? Yeah, so okay, so I'm this film deserves an analysis, and I think that I think that we should go through it through the elements of the plot like you just were going through. And I think overall, I would say in terms of being a fan, I was not really a fan of the movie. Yes, I wasn't. I liked elements of it.
I thought it was overwritten, dude. Did you get that take from it? Like, I felt like it could have been cut down way hard. It was the only one of his films where you're like, bro, get to the point, man. Like,
yes, it was too long. And look, I'm saying that as, I consider myself a film person, and I know movies. And there's nothing wrong with the slow burn but what I got from it, like, Jackie Brown, this was not. Okay. And there was a lot of like the plot is essentially the same in a number of ways as Jackie Brown. I mean, it's a cops and robbers movie. And that's fine. But,
I haven't seen Jackie Brown in years. How's it the same? Is it really that close to Jackie Brown?
Yeah, it's really close and not just because of the plot, but because, all cops and robbers movies are going to share a plot, and that's fine.
But this is cops turning into robbers.
Yes, it is. But, and sort of the same thing happens in that. But it's really the aesthetic for one is, and again, that's fine. This is like a very 70s movie.
Yeah, and neo-noir. It's definitely neo-noir.
So it's a 70s movie in the sense that it's supposed to be hard-boiled, and it is a pretty hard-boiled movie. I mean, it's hard-boiled. It's got kind of gruff, gritty, realistic characters. But the thing that I thought that putting the characters in the old cars and having the music play, like the music that they do in the movie, was
Zahler wrote that music.
Yeah, and that's what annoyed me because it's like, these aren't real songs, and it's one thing to have like original songs in the film, but I could tell that they were original for the film, and there was too much of an expose of like, hey, I'm going to put my own music in the film and let's play the film, and it's going to be nostalgic, and and I thought it was too much, and also it went on. The music alone went on for too long. The scenes driving were too long. It was good that you said it was overwritten, because The
It's
dialogue.
surprising because he's a good fucking writer, man. The guy knows how to write a script, and his other films are really well written, and they've been criticized for being overwritten, and I don't think they are. Bone Tomahawk and Brawl and Stuff Like That. I think those are like perfect films, dude. I really do. But this one was the first time I saw him make a movie where I'm like, nope. Now I get what they're saying about the other ones, even though it doesn't apply to the other ones. But this one, it fucking applies, man.
Okay, so even a good example of that is like when Mel Gibson goes home and his wife is there. Is it where he goes home and she's cooking dinner or something? Mm-hmm. And then they're going to talk to the daughter, and like the way that they talk was not the way people talk. And I get it. Like you can have stylized dialogue. Right. But there were too many words, man. Yeah. There's too many words, and they're trying to tell us too much in the thing. And it's like, we didn't need the explanation at the end, for example, about how his daughter has been assaulted 5 times and his wife has MS, because we saw that in the film.
Right. Like they live in a shitty neighborhood. We get it. It's dangerous. Like
we get it. And also, by the way, there's no way that's his daughter. They were the grandparents. They had to be the grandparents of the kid. If he's going on 60 and his wife is the same age, like around the same age, obviously, like, so what? The daughter was like, the wife was 46 when she gave birth to the daughter. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? You know? One thing that I saw in the movie was, I was kind of like, okay, so what's the guy's name? Toby Skittles?
Tory Kittles.
Tory Kittles. So Torrance Skittles is one of the cops in True Detective.
Yes,
that's right. Interviews Matthew McConaughey, and Vince Vaughn is in True Detective season 2. Mm-hmm. And I saw that and I went, okay, did they do the casting based on watching True Detective seasons? Because the universe that this takes place in is obviously the same universe as True Detective 2. It's a kind of a nameless California-esque, New York urban like suburb but city that is part of some sort of major metropolitan area, but like exists in a kind of like brown crime where there's like industrial crime, because that's what the movie's about. It's like industrial crime. All the places, all the locations they go to are based on that. And I'm like, okay, it's the same sort of universe, but I liked what they did with the villain. I mean, it was weird how the villain transfers onto another villain. He was just a henchman for the main villain, who's the German guy. And I'm like, there's no the resolution. I'm like, okay, I'm glad this guy got murked in the end, but like that guy could have been a really vicious villain because he was.
He was a psycho, dude. They wrote him as a psycho.
Total psycho, and he just sort of fades into the background. And it is weird, like you were saying about the politics of it. One thing that's pretty predictive is the news story that they get with it predicts a certain thing that happened in 2020, because he gets filmed with his foot on the part of the guy, on the guy's head, right?
Oh, was that before Floyd?
Oh yeah, it was before that. It was 2 It was 2 or 3 years before that. And
but it was still, the police brutality thing was still definitely in the news, though.
It was. Sure. It was, but
it's a very reactionary film in that way.
It is, but that singular action is something that wasn't really around, because before that, brutality was like in the media.
Rodney King.
Yes, was Rodney King. Yeah. And this was a singular one, body part on another body part thing without, so it was very much like what happened later.
Yeah, let's talk about that opening scene. How did the film open? Did it open with the black dude with his mom or whatever?
I wanted
to, and then it goes into the police brutality.
Well, I think that just to go back to the way it's written, I do agree they could have trimmed it down some. I think though, one thing that I thought was interesting was some of those longer sequences, like where Biscuit and Henry, like later in the movie when they're driving out to that abandoned gas station with the bank robbers in the back, and they have that they're talking about like, when he was growing up and Biscuit's mom knew that Henry, like his mom was not doing well, and he had a rough upbringing. So, she'd kind of look out for him. And then, some of the like the scene in the diner at the beginning with Lorisetti and Ridgman, that was it. I think I thought that was good. I think, again, they could have trimmed some of it down, but I liked some of those extended sequences because it was a way to get an insight into the relationships between the characters, how they think, how they act, their backgrounds, kind of their worldview. So that was something I actually liked. And I mean, it's the movie's like 2 hours, 38 minutes, I think. But with the opening scene of the film, and I actually forgotten about this, the opening scene of the film is Henry had just gotten out of prison and he's hooking up with this girl. And that's like what it opens on, is the two of them at the end of, what they were getting into.
All the other films, I felt like especially how Henley brought up the music and how it seemed like it was like, check out my music, all the other films, I felt like it was tastefully done, because he did put his own music in the other films too, but it's like, it was tastefully done. Whereas this one, I definitely agree with BLA that it was pushed a little too hard. But in all the other movies, like, people critique them for having too much dialogue and too overwritten. But I think that it made the films what they were. And like with this one, I definitely think it was to its own detriment, for sure. And then to speak on what you said about it opening with that is a weird opening for sure.
Yeah. It opens with them in the car, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's in the car.
His homie's getting him a prostitute, basically, as he's just getting out of jail.
Oh yeah.
Well, it opens with them in like him and the girl in bed, and then they're kind of talking, and I guess it's implied they knew each other in middle school or high school or something growing up. And then it's like he's and then he's talking to Biscuit later, and he was like, oh yeah, like he hooked that up for him, like getting the girl to meet up with him or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, his name's Biscuit, and he's getting him a biscuit. He gets him 3 hot biscuits, right? He gets him 3 biscuits stashed the burner in the bushes. He gets him 3 biscuits, which are wrapped in a weird cellophane, which, by the way, at the end of the movie, like when he uses one of the biscuits, it's like still got the cellophane on it. And I was like, what is this? Like, he didn't unwrap it? What is this?
Yeah.
That was odd.
And so we're introduced to the fact that this film is going to be told from 3 different perspectives, right? Like, it's going to be told from the perspective of the criminal, of the guy who just got out of jail, right? And then it's going to be told from the perspective of the 2 police detectives, and then it's going to be told from the perspective of the criminals, of the bank robbers. And so we're sort of introduced to this 3 segmented way of telling a story. It's almost like Rashomon in the sense where you're getting totally different perspectives of one event.
I got to go back to the cellophane. So they're wrapped in cellophane, but who uses one when it's still wrapped in the cellophane? No one does that.
Well, he said the reason,
like Jack Nance.
He said the reason
plastic.
He said the reason it was the reason it was wrapped in cellophane is he said sometimes you don't have time to wipe the guns down after you. That's what that was the explanation.
That was the explanation, right?
Because if you can't wipe it down,
that's the whole point. They mentioned that. Henley, how'd you miss that? They fucking talk about it.
Because that's lame. That doesn't happen. Of course,
exactly. Nobody does that.
Of course,
right. It was so weird.
They're at a lake at the end, and they can throw it in the lake.
Right. They could wear gloves. Right. Like, no one's going to think anything of dudes working for a security company wearing gloves.
Right? Who gives a shit? That was very odd. I thought that was a weird small point. That was I've never seen that in my entire life. That's really.
I've never heard of that either. I think that's why they put it in the film, to be like some quirky, like weird.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. And then so then he goes inside, and he's like, "Yo, moms, what you
back to hoeing?"
But I like how he's like, I got a bat. And he's like, and then the guy's like, oh, excuse me, I'll leave, and the guy leaves. He's like, what, you got needles in here? You got,
his mom's on drugs. She's selling her body or whatever. And he's like, I'm home. This is done. I'll take care of you.
So that was good, because it set it up that, like, we have this guy who's in a family situation. He's going to do anything he can for his family. He's a
good dude.
Yes.
At heart. Yeah. And I think one of the things, just real quick, is when Biscuit, Michael Jai White's character, drops him off, he sort of he asks him if he wants to get in on some kind of work, which is sort of heavily. I don't think he is specific about what it is, but it's heavily implied to be illegal. And I think that was one of the themes that was kind of interesting. Is it sort of, and I know we're going to get to themes later, but it sort of points to the like recidivism, which is going back to prison over and over, because his mom, Henry's mom, kind of alludes to that. She's like, oh, well, what are you going to do? Like, do you have any kind of job lined up? And so that's the thing is, and I'm not an apologist for crime, but I'm just saying that, certain people, when they get into a situation like, we have a felony on your record, it becomes, getting a job becomes very, very difficult. And so that's why you see, he's immediately goes back to, or at least shows an interest in going right back to criminal activity after just getting out of prison, seemingly the same day.
Yeah, so that is the same thing that happens in Heat, and not that that's unusual, because that's real. The same thing happens in Heat when the guy becomes the line cook, right? Mm-hmm. Pick up, right? Nah, he's like, I need to know whether you. I need to know. You got 5 minutes. Are you in? I need to know right now. Are you in or out? And he's like, nah, fuck it, I'm in, right? And he takes the job, and he's the driver. And it also is a mirror of what happens with Mel Gibson, because he's talking to Vince Vaughn in the car, and he's like, look, man, I've given my whole life to this job. We've got how many collars? We've been doing this shit. We're constantly, and then they get us for this bullshit, and I've got nothing to show for it. And that's true.
They're good guys. They're good. They're good police officers. They care, and they do make a point to show that the people that they were brutalizing were scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. They're busting drug dealers and drug pushers and shit. And these guys are dirtbags. And because they use a little too much force, which they definitely do. I mean, they like handcuff the guy to a fire escape and break his nose on the fucking on the metal fire escape. But it's like, it's like, I don't know. They show that they're good dudes, but they're old school. They're real old school. They're gonna do what they got to do to crack the case, if you will.
Yeah,
and they don't care about the new woke policies of like, no, be gentle with these guys. It's like, no, we're gonna break your face if you don't tell us where the drugs and money
Don
are.
Johnson puts he's like, listen, where's your compassion? Mm-hmm. And that was an odd speech, but it was true. But I think what he probably meant to say was like, where's your objectivity? You're a professional. Mm-hmm. You've been doing this too long, and if you keep doing it, you're going to be dragged across concrete. He mentioned the word concrete in that speech. Like, that's the movie title.
They said it.
But like the guy who gets busted is also the same dude dude's he's in Training Day and like a bunch of movies. But like, why did the guy lie? If his girlfriend is deaf, why not just say, look, man, she's not going to go. No, you're in there. And yes, she's got a gun. Like, why not just, you're already fucked, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to take you. And why not just like, that part didn't make sense to me. Also something with continuity. It's like they're sitting literally outside the guy's bedroom window. Right.
Right.
And they're talking in this volume. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, and then they hear the guy on the other side of the apartment, the other cop, come in through the door. Oh, Super sent me. And then the guy goes and checks out the window. Like, is anybody out here? It's like, yes, motherfucker. We're standing right here. This didn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah. So they're staking out the joint to the guy. They pull the dude out, they handcuff him to the thing, and then they go in, they confront the girl. Do they find her in the shower? Was that what happened? They find the chick in the shower. Do they throw her in the shower? I forget.
She was running to the bathroom, and so Mel Gibson like pushes her in the shower and then turns the water on cold and lets it run on her for a minute, and then pulls her out, and then tells Vince Vaughn's character Lorisetti, he's like, hey, shut the door and turn the fans on.
Well, first she ran in with the bag.
Yes, that's right.
She ran in with the bag, and he went up to her real quick and grabbed the bag. Said, "This bag's heavier than I think." So she got the gun in it, obviously.
Yeah.
And then he turns the water on or whatever. We're gonna make you stand there, and then he goes in. At that point in the movie, I thought, oh, these guys are just gonna take the money, right? Like, they're just gonna take the bag, the money and the drugs or whatever was in there. But instead, they don't.
What were they grilling her for? What were they trying to learn? Because I haven't seen this film in a month.
They were trying to find, because her boyfriend, the guy who chained up on the fire escape, he had come in because he was a drug dealer, and they said he was like selling drugs to kids. So I guess it was money or guns or drugs or something. They said they'd seen him bring in a green duffel bag at 11 p.m. the night before, and so they were interrogating her, trying to find out where it was.
Right.
And she had it hidden behind like rack of suits in the closet.
Right. And it's revealed that she's like an illegal immigrant or something like that, right? And she's like, "Oh, if I get arrested, I'm going to be deported." And they're like, "Look, you tell us what's up and we're not going to arrest you," right? It's something like that. Like, "You tell us what's up, we're not going to arrest you." When they finally get the information, they don't follow through. Like, "What? Nah, we never said that." Like,
right.
so she trusts the cops.
I think the thing to read into that was we don't want to tear up the apartment because they didn't go in with a warrant. So they can't go in and tear up. That's why I thought they were there to steal it, because they go in, they don't want to tear up the apartment or leave any evidence, and they're like, "Where's the bag?" And then finally she tells them, "Look behind the suits."
Right. And so,
which is also mirrored later on in the film, because Vince Vaughn tells his fiance or girlfriend at that point to go in and look in the suits, and that's where she found the ring.
That's very true.
That's
very true. Yeah,
it was mirrored. So they go in and find the bag.
Yeah, they find the bag. What the scene definitely tells us is that these cops are willing to bend or break the rules to get. We're shown that they're, for the most part, honest cops, because they aren't going there to steal the money. They're trying to crack the case. They're trying to actually arrest the bad guys and find the drugs and the money, but they're willing to push the rules to the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're willing to do what they have to do to do it.
Well,
Do it efficiently.
With their relationship is something I noticed is with Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn's characters is that their dialogue is very like banter style. They're like back and forth, and it's like stereotypical buddy cop. Like, it almost reminded me of Lethal Weapon, like how Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, like a more serious, that very like kind of, it wasn't like as quick witted, but it's a very, they're kind of just bantering back and forth. And like you see that even though, the Loracetti, Vince Vaughn's character, even though he's younger, he's like 20 years younger than Mel Gibson's character, he's arguably even like more old school cop than Ridgman is.
I disagree, because when they were going later on, when he first got him into the look, he calls him up. He's like, "Get in the car, be there at 4:30," and they get in the car, right? Mm-hmm. And if that were true, then Vince Vaughn would have gotten in the car, no questions asked. He would have been going with him. But instead, he makes a point of saying, "Are we really doing this? Are you sure? Like, we could have called him in then. We could have called it in this time. We could have called it in at this time." And then finally he gets to the point where he says, "Yeah, I'm in." And he says, "Look, man, you don't have to be in." And he's like, "No, my word is my bond. I told you I was going to do this." And so he does it. But he made a big point of telling him, like, "Are you serious? We got a lot. We're not cops right now. We're on investigation."
But he goes, "I'm in until I'm not." He says, "I'm in until I'm not," because he doesn't tell him really exactly what the thing is. He's like, "I just got to show you." And so he's like, "All right, I'm in till I'm not,"
Yeah. To make a point about when they were on the fire escape outside, the person filming it, it's like, can you blame the person filming? How did they know that they were cops? All they saw was two guys. The badges were here, but they didn't have jackets on that said, whatever, Culver City cops or, feds or whatever it was. They didn't have jackets. They didn't have anything showing. They were just standing there with guns on the fire escape outside of this guy's, apartment. So it's like, who the fuck are these guys, right?
And that's kind of what the boss is like chastising him for. Is he's like, "Dude, like this day and age, you can't be like doing that out in the public eye. Like, you're just like beating this guy on a fire escape."
Right. Yeah, and that's like Don Johnson's character, who's I think like lieutenant captain or whatever. He actually hit on something that was interesting. Is this sort of added, like, we all know we live in a surveillance state, right? If you live in the U.S. or most Western countries, like, you live in a surveillance state, but there's an added layer. It's like a civilian surveillance state where, you like everybody now has they're walking around like with a video camera in their pocket that's decent quality, can pick up audio from, a reasonable distance, and so it's like that added layer of surveillance, where it's like you have potential to be like, how many times have we seen people, at their worst day, get filmed and then it gets put online and, people's lives get ruined over that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, one thing weird about that is that it's when you're watching it, there's this disconnect, at least for me, because I'm thinking, what decade is this? All the cars are old, but all of the places, did you notice all the the set the decor in all the places they go in? Is this like I'm like,
that's
why?
important though, because the
Why
whole
is-
thing is an anachronistic. That like the whole story is the point is that these cops are anachronistic. You know what I mean?
Well,
And so
I
the
think-
'70s music is there, I think, to further that theme.
well,
Of that
it's
these
like,
are cops of the old time, but they're in modern day. You know?
right. But okay, so we go to the black guy's apartment, and it's like the wall, there's nothing on the walls, and it's just straight green or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that makes it a home. We go to Mel Gibson's house, it's kind of the same. We go to Vince Vaughn's house, it's the same. It's like, it's almost like, you know, when you go to like fucking, I don't know, some mall store that sells kitchenware, right? And it's like they've got fake apples on the table. That's what it looked like to me. It's like, okay, we get it. But then they sort of make up for that in the end, because the last scene is in this brightly lit modern house. So it's supposed to be like, oh no, now we're in the, you know, we're in the sunset, right? We're in the positive world where like wealth has changed their life. But it was weird that the bad guys and the good guys all had like the same sort of style and this weird gray sort of brown world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, Blocksky, I don't know where your comment went. I didn't see it disappear. Shouts out to Block Party Vintage out there, homeboy. Shouts out to Jason. Shouts out to everybody out there who might be watching this later. You guys,
Yeah,
I put my link in there for my Cash App, and I put Jerry's in there. So because Kuski's didn't work, so if you want to donate to us, we'll split it 3 ways. And so anyway,
well, one thing I wanted to make a quick comment on the apartments is, have y'all seen Rabbits, that series of shorts that David Lynch did?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
wait. Which the ones that were included in Inland Empire Rabbits? Right.
I thought you were talking about the Monkey Man. Sorry. Remember the David Lynch Monkey Man one?
Yeah, that was the Netflix one. That was great. Yeah, it's called Jack or something.
This was yeah, it was like these. It was something he just did. It was
like a family of like human-sized rabbits, right?
I think so. It's been a while since I've watched it.
That was like a short, but then he included it into Inland Empire.
Yes. If there's one, I'm just gonna. There's one like the famous frame from it where it shows the and I can't find a good photo. I was gonna show it on screen, but like where the house or whatever the rabbit. It's been a long time since I watched it. Whatever, like the house or whatever it is. That's what those apartments reminded me of. The apartments everybody lives in. It looked like that that room that like the rabbits were in. Anyway, that was just a random side note, but I thought it was kind of weird. But one thing I'd actually written down that I thought was kind of funny is in the scene where they're at the diner right after the bust where they got recorded is Vince Vaughn's character says that the line between men and women was obliterated when men started saying we're pregnant when their wives are. And I was like, I actually agree, because anytime I've heard any guy say like, oh yeah, we're pregnant, it's like, no, dude, you are not like your wife is pregnant.
And that brings up the whole thing. I don't think we mentioned it while we've been on air, but that, the sort of like, you start to see how they've criticized it for being far right or whatever, but really it's just anti-woke. There's just not kowtowing to the woke narrative. I wouldn't necessarily say that the guy seems like he's like far right or anything like that, like the writer. It just seems like they're reacting towards the push towards this sort of crazy woke stuff,
right?
Like defund the police and men are women and stuff like that, So yeah, I mean they go, which is a little aggressive with this.
It's an odd criticism because the police do suspend them. Like before it even hits
they have to suspend them. They're on camera breaking this dude's nose when they didn't need to at all. Like,
I suppose, but no, they
didn't need to. They
justify way worse shit than that all the time. It seemed like they were like, I don't know. They gave into that, and then look at the resolution of the movie. The resolution of the movie is look who wins.
Right.
So it's a weird criticism of the movie. I mean, I
feel like the writer, like S. Craig Zahler, had to do that to get the film made, because in 2018 to make this movie, like I was telling Coop before we got on air, I was like, I really feel like he purposefully put that in just so he could make the film, like. But yeah,
it's like, look, man, you got Mel Gibson in your movie already.
exactly. Like you're pushing it.
Yeah, you're pushing it. Yeah, there's not, and I don't know.
He's making based statements, and the whole thing that is centered around these cops that are like, old school and stuff. And it's not a defund the police movie. And he's like, look, I'll kill them. I'll kill the cops, and I'll let the black dude win. And there you go. Like, and did the black guy turn out to be gay? Because in my recollection, that main black dude, it's revealed like very subtly that he's gay. Can you remember that? Am I just making that up in my head?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I just know that his mom at the beginning used words I can't and won't say on YouTube, but to say that his dad had like run off with a guy, but I don't know about him.
I'm pretty sure, dude. I'm like, man, I only seen this film once, but I'm pretty sure. But I've been wrong before, so who knows? But
yeah, I don't know if they did. I missed it. But something that was interesting with that conversation between Don Johnson's character and Mel Gibson's is, I actually wrote down this quote where Don Johnson's character actually said digital lies are everywhere. And like, yeah, he's right, and especially with the police, they're under more scrutiny. But Calvert was Don Johnson's character's name. He mentioned how, because we find out that him and Ridgman, Mel Gibson, had been partners before. And so Calvert notes that he's watched Ridgman get progressively rougher over the years, and he's become increasingly brutal and increasingly hard over time.
Bitter.
And
because his partner's lifted up and gotten promotions and advanced to made it to chief or lieutenant or whatever, and this guy's still doing the same thing.
Yeah, because he won't bend to the new kind of the way things are done now.
Well, that's the reason why he's the chief also, right? He plays the political game. But I did find that pretty I mean, I just think that whole scene and the filming of it, of course, that had already happened, but the way that it happened was really predictive, I thought. And they chose to sort of go another angle. I mean, well, they didn't at the time, they didn't know about the angle that it would be after 2020 or whatever. But also the cops in this are not really the cops in this are also fuck them too, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree that like they're going to get theirs or whatever, and but they watched the robbery happen. They watched the girl die. It's like Vince Vaughn says, they could have done something about it. Yep. And then they go off and they do their thing. And then like, by the way, when Vince Vaughn gets spoiler alert, when Vince Vaughn dies in the movie, Mel Gibson's like, oh, well, and moves on. Now we have this new partnership, right?
Which is funny. It is funny, but it does make me like the film less, because that's why I liked Brawl and Sub Black 99 so much, because Vince Vaughn's character is so likable. He's so likable, and he's so like, yeah, this is a fucking badass dude. And then in this one, they're all just dirtbags.
Yeah, he wasn't really anything in this. He was just he was a partner. And he had dialogue that showed who he was as a character, but it wasn't much of a character. Right. I didn't get it. I know that it also kind of balanced it because his fiance was who she was in the movie. And we see that, she even makes a point of saying that. She's like, so how many, innocent people did you assault today? Right. How many, M words did you assault? And he's like, okay, so that's kind of like, he can't, I guess in the mind of the viewer, it's like, oh, well, he's not a brutal guy. Like truly he's a cop, but like, he's also, look who his fiance is, I guess, is the point they were trying to make.
He's just trying his best. That's the way Vince Vaughn seems like he comes off. He's just a guy. He's trying his best. He's not, he's just trying to make it, but he just got the wrong partner. He got the old jaded fuck partner. That's like, I'm not doing this political bullshit, and I'm going to show you how to do this. And it's my way,
But so he's also got cold steel in the back. And he's like, you want me to take out this weapon of war or whatever? And he takes out his sniper rifle. He was an Army sniper.
Yeah.
Like they've got this face mask. They've got the
sorry. I love Vince Vaughn, dude. Everybody knows Mel Gibson's a based actor, but Vince Vaughn's the best, dude.
I like Vince Vaughn too. Vince Vaughn's cool.
Yeah, something I was just thinking about with Vince Vaughn's character is I was thinking about something, BLA, you said a minute ago, where now that I think about it, I think he does kind of have some of an old school cop mentality, but I think it's more that he tries to project the image of being a hard case. And I think he is sort of a tough character, but I don't think he has that same kind of toughness and that kind of jaded, bitter hardness that Mel Gibson's character has. And I think that's evidenced by the fact, and this scene, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I didn't really understand it except to show something about who his character was. But when he goes to Feinbaum's jewelry store and he's just kind of like, looking, it's like admiring the ring, and it's clear like he has, feelings for this woman, and he's takes this seriously, but it was, so I think that was kind of revelatory in the sense that he's not as much of a, just like hard case as he likes to portray himself to be.
I think the best symbol of that would probably be their choice of sidearm, right? Because Vince Vaughn has a service weapon and Mel Gibson's got a fucking 357.
Right.
He's got a revolver. So it's like, okay, so Mel Gibson's supposed to be the Charles Bronson guy. Right. And Vince Vaughn is the play by the rules guy, but he's still got this partner. Mel Gibson's kind of a dirty Harry, but they're both playing this game. One thing is when they go to the diner and they eat, damn, I wanted breakfast so bad when I saw that. Oh man.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted, and the saucy lady, right? She's like, she reminded me of, have you ever seen Hell or High Water? Hell or High Water with Chris Pine and Ben, what's his name, and Tommy Lee Jones. That's a great film. That's another cops and robbers film. But there's a scene where Tommy Lee Jones he's a cop and he takes the other guy into the diner and he's like, "What you got here, honey?" And she's like, "We got what's on the menu. Don't you want to take a look at it and read it first, sugar?" Right? She said. And in this one, they're like, "Can you box this up?" And she's like, "You want me to drag ass all the way over here? I just made this for you." I love it. Give him some attitude, honey. So then they box it up. I thought one good scene was when Vince Vaughn gets his breakfast omelet sandwich or whatever, and they're in the car and he's eating it, and he's eating forever.
Yeah. And
it's like ASMR, like you can hear every crunch, and he's like, good omelet. And it goes on forever. And Mel Gibson gives him this side eye, and he's like, "You've been eating that thing for 29 minutes." Right.
He's keeping track.
I thought that was really good because I was pissed too. I was like,
well, that's the strength of Zahler's writing, is those little things, Yeah,
that was cool. I like that. That was a nice touch.
Like in Cell Block 99, where he's talking about the price of milk and stuff, and the milk being turned the wrong way, and and using that as the sort of description of how unlucky he is he always gets the skim milk. Like that's the little stuff that makes his writing so good.
The thing that reminded me of Jackie Brown the most was when they get in the car. That song that Jackie's always playing, ding 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 ding. That song. It's the Delphonics, and then later he's playing Bobby Womack, "Across 110th Street." That song.
Yeah.
"Lonely junkie want me." So they're doing the same thing in this song. And what you've got the 70s Oldsmobile. Right. And then when he drove past the bank and the guy spotted him through the side panel, I was like, oh, he's done there. He's already been made. These two guys are the most cop looking guys I've ever seen. Right. Especially Mel Gibson in this.
When he puts on the sunglasses, you got him halfway down his nose and the hat. It's like, that's like putting on the glasses with the fake mustache and the nose. Right. It's like, it's on that level. It's like you were still so obviously a cop.
Have you ever seen the story? It's a real guy. He's called the Too Tall Bank Robber.
I don't think
have you ever heard about that guy? I don't think he's been caught. He's called the Too Tall Bank Robber. And he always wears these fucking Matrix Revolution masks and shit. And he's too tall. He looks really odd. And this guy has robbed 5 million banks all over the country for years, and he's never been caught.
Y'all know my uncle was a bank robber, right? I told
you said that. Yeah.
I'm close with him. He lives with my grandparents right now. He's out of jail. He's I was always close with him, and then he just started robbing banks out of nowhere. It's crazy.
Well, one of the things, speaking of the robberies, that really was strange. There's that scene in the convenience store where the guy's watching the news broadcast.
Yeah.
About what's going on with Ridgman and
smoked that cashier. I knew he was going to get smoked right away.
Oh yeah. And so he comes in, and then what was really this, and the movie's kind of, don't know if stylized would be the right word, but it was just odd that you had this guy come in. I can't remember if it was gray gloves or black gloves, one of the two, just like lunatics who works for Vogelman. Is like the dude comes in, he's got like a full auto rifle, tactical style gear, and he's doing like a pet. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be petty, but he's doing just like a run of the mill armed robbery of a convenience store. And he like shoots out the TV, he shoots out a drink cooler, he shoots
just
out
for
a
no
snack
reason.
gun.
He's just like, I just want to fire the gun.
Right. Just like smokes a guy who comes in to get a drink or something.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like most people who do these kind of small robberies, it's like put on get like a ski mask and a 45, and it's like, oh, give me the money or whatever. And then, they'll take the drawer and run out. But this guy, it was just odd that these people seem so professional and they're doing these just like small time little robberies at convenience stores.
That reminded me of a couple things. One is the scene in Heat where he says, "Do you see me taking down liquor stores for $2 a pop with the local fellas?" And he's like, "No, I take down scores. That's what I do." These guys are highline robbery. They're robbing fucking gold bullion from the bank vault. These guys got automatic. They got fully automatic weapons
with silencers, with suppressors on them.
They are not. What are they doing? Robbing this grab store. And go with the fucking
some Korean
store.
Korean liquor store.
I didn't get that at all. That didn't make sense. And the other thing was, it just shows you before you walk in the store, look through the fucking door window before you walk right into the store. Oh, I need some milk, right? Bam,
right.
I get smoked, and then of course he's gonna smoke the other guy, which was kind of a weird like menace to society, or don't be a menace thing, right? With you buy more, you hurry up and buy. Right.
Yeah. Hurry up and buy. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that the whole point of that scene was just to show that this dude is a monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He's a psycho. Exactly. Like Clontarf. Yeah. Like he's a psycho. That's the whole point of it, is to show this guy just wants to shoot his gun and kill people.
And that's sort of a way of it's like creating terror, in the community, to where it's like you have this what's supposed to be just a normal robbery, and it's just way over the top. So it's sort of a way to instill fear. And like we see later, like these people, gray gloves and black gloves, like these guys are completely insane. Like they are just total absolute sociopaths.
And it's also that Hitchcockian thing where it's letting us know something that the characters don't know yet. It's letting us know who they're dealing with, when these cops think the cops don't know who they're dealing with. All they know is the money. They're blinded by the score, and they're like, yeah, we'll do this, and we're professionals and we're badasses and we got this. But then we know as the audience, like, yo, they're getting in with some people that are messed up, man.
Yeah, a couple of things about that. One is that the fact that they have fully auto, I thought that was, you don't see that much anymore. You don't see fully auto like that. And the shooting everything in the store, and the fact that it's a silencer, it to me was like,
yeah, he shoots the chips. He shoots like the chips rack.
And then when he meets the guy to get the van, and he shoots the tires out, and he's like, these are airless tires, and the guy's unfazed by it. But it was to show that this guy speaks his sentences are punctuated by bullets, and that he's completely unpredictable. The only times when they're not unpredictable, when they are predictable, is when they fuck it up at the bank, when the bank employees, like the guy, you think the guy is really going to go, hey, hit that button on the computer. The guy just said we will the fact that he uses the word execute right there also. We'll execute everyone in the bank, and you're going to give it up for some money in the bank? Like, no, dude.
For real. And what we didn't even cover, though, we to lead up to that scene in the bank, you get the perspective shifts to this family, this like woman and her husband. They're a new family. They got a little baby, and she's like terrified. It's some lady, and she's supposed to go to work, and the husband's telling her, look, you got to go to work. And she's like, I don't want to go to work. You got to go to work. It's been 9 months. Like they've had you on maternity leave. It's time to go. It's fine. We'll be here when you get home, and she's like refusing to go, missing the bus. He's like, no, go to work. They're going to fire you. Then she goes to work, and then bam, they get right. We find out she works at the bank, and then she gets robbed. The bank gets robbed, and then she gets murdered that day.
Yeah.
I think go ahead, BLA.
Well, I was going to say, so that scene to me was one example where I can see the executives watching that and going, you got to cut this shit out. This has got to go. This is totally extraneous. We don't care about this character. We don't need to see their home life. We don't need to see her. Can you give these to little Timmy? It's like
honestly, that's like one of my favorite parts of the film because it's
they
like,
could have kept that in without telling us about her home life. We get it. Like we see her, and one thing that I do like about it is that they try to do this thing where, do you remember in Austin Powers where in the first Austin Powers, like he's running over the guy and the guy's like, no, he's a henchman. And he's like, I've got a family. And we see there's an outtake from Austin Powers. And I think it's Rob Lowe, and Rob Lowe is the henchman. And it's like the henchman has a life. In fact, my friend, I shouldn't say, but my friend, the screenplay that he wrote is about this. It's about how the villains have henchmen and the henchmen are real people like with lives. So we see that in this instance, it's like the opposite where the victims are real people with lives, and we get that, but we don't need to see the 45 excuse my language, the 45 minutes of her going home. It was weird. It's like, do you also live in the same apartment block as Mel Gibson and the bad guy? Where is this? What is this? It was weird.
Well, it is brutal though, man, because it really does. It made me feel really bad because I'm like, man, like we saw her baby, we saw like their happy family,
we saw her arm cut off, right?
And like the part that really hits at home is when she's about to leave, and he's like, look, she's like, can I just touch the baby? Can I just touch it once, and then I promise I'll go to work like that. It's like, oh man, like
that was Dexter's sister, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was also married to one of the Avett brothers. I can't remember which one, but I actually had some thoughts on this scene because the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't get it. But then the second time I watched it, so if you'll indulge me for a moment on this tangent, I think I took some notes on this. Is what's up?
I said no.
But yeah, I think that this is sort of it's to take, and this is something that the friend of the show, Rachel Wilson, based homeschool mom, talks about a lot. Is that which is not to say, like, I'm not going to say women should not have jobs or shouldn't work or anything like that. I don't think Rachel says that either. But it's this that most women are, would prefer to be at home raising children, and I think that this was a way. And I think it works, and I agree with. I mean, this is my analysis of it, but it did kind of feel a bit shoehorned in there. But what he was getting at, though, I think with that was that
the man staying home with it's unnatural. The man staying home with the baby, and the woman's traumatized by it.
Right, and it's this almost like. I was thinking it's like a reverse separation anxiety, because with separation anxiety, if you see it in children, it's usually they get anxiety from being away from their mom or dad or whatever. Yeah. But in this case, she has separation anxiety being away from the child, and so it's
the man's the one that should die in that situation. Like
exactly, it's this very extreme portrayal of, because she even says that she let's see. Yeah, she says that her job is stupid and it's just a small part of a bigger scheme where rich people she's never met move money around that she only gets a pittance of. And so she recognizes that this job is dumb. She doesn't want to be doing it. She has no desire to do it. She wants to be. And so it's a very, taking that to its extreme where she's like has a meltdown being away from her child. And, and so she almost has this like just totally single-minded devotion, and like we don't get a great view of her marriage. It doesn't seem to be the healthiest marriage. She doesn't seem to have a lot of respect for her husband.
It seems like a soy boy kind of, he's the roles are reversed. The roles are flipped.
He's got his kid in a Bjorn, right? No, you can't trust it. So I think that it's interesting to consider that the only person that really gets away with it in this is Udo Kier, who plays, I'm sorry, Mr. Ventura. You should be sorry. If I'd been drinking from the toilet, I might have been killed, right? He's Roger Podacter. He's in Ace Ventura. So Udo Kier, who played Dracula, he was also in the Dracula movie. Anyway, he's the guy that Mel goes to for the contact, right? And what we get in that scene is Mel says, I let your I think son off from this crime, and now you owe me. Well, what you can assume from that is that, look, Mel Gibson leaves his wife at home to take care of the kid. The bad guy has his mom at home taking care of the kid. Vince Vaughn doesn't have a kid, but he's trying to marry her. The bad guys probably have families. They also aren't making out because that's why they're robbing things. Yep. She's being screwed by the system because she's working with money and never gets any. The only person with any money in the thing is Udo Kier, who has the $5,000 suits for sale, has a child who's not there, but who is only there because of Mel Gibson and who makes off scot-free with the rest of the story. So he's the only one that really makes out with it. And you know that the thing that bothered me the most really in this movie was that how in the world is the guy at the end going to buy the mansion and send the gold bullion in a package and be able to get, you cannot, there's no way. What are you going to recast the gold? I suppose he could do that. I just read a book where it talks about recasting gold. You'd have to go out of the country for that. How's he going to get the gold out of the country? This guy just got out of prison, right? To fence the gold bullion, you're going to lose, 80% of it? You're going to make out with 20% of it. You can't just take the bullion into the pawn shop and say, hey, I got these gold bars here. Can I cash them in? Well, it's got a stamp on it, right? And they just reported a Highline burglary where you stole $400 million from the bank down the street. Like, there's no way.
Right.
So yeah, that was the one thing where I like, you really had to suspend disbelief on that because it's not like you can. Yeah, like they're going to be tracking that because with a bank robbery where everybody gets massacred,
right?
And one thing with the bank, this is a note I took, and I really didn't know what to make of this. When Kelly, Jennifer Carpenter's character, comes back to work, she gets a very theatrical. It's almost like they're staging a play where it's this very theatrical kind of welcome, particularly with the bank manager, like Eddington or something, whatever his name was. He's very. It's like, and I think he played the role really well, but it was like watching a guy at like a small town community theater giving a performance.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't know what
so
to
happy to see her.
Weird.
He's so happy. We're so glad to have you back. Like, yeah. So she gets back to work and pretty much immediately they get robbed. And then, the guy, they don't actually speak to the employees at the bank. They play a tape recorder with a pre-recorded message of if anybody presses the alarm button, we will murder one of you. If anybody doesn't, get the bank manager has to go open the vault in 30 seconds. If he doesn't, we will murder one of you. If I forget the exact wording, it's been a month since I've seen this film, but it kept repeating, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, we will murder one of you. And,
execute was they kept saying execute. Yeah.
We will execute one of you. And then finally the one guy that the woman is standing next to, he's like, look, I'm about to send this email that says help, and she's like, no. And she tries to stop him and bam, they kill her right on the spot.
Also, there's like 40 people working in the bank and there's nobody in the back. And you're going to say there's nobody. Come on, dude. And there's nobody outside. There's nobody driving by, but there's like 40 employees in the bank. Right. Have you been in a bank like that recently? There's like 3 people working in there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of banks, I know this because of my uncle. A lot of banks don't even have security cameras and shit like that. You'd be amazed. But so they end up killing the woman, and then do they kill anybody else? Eventually they do, but what happens after they shoot the woman?
Well, they shoot her, and then I think they shoot the guy who was trying to send the email. One other thing, just a quick note on this. I actually wrote this. I didn't pick up on this the first time I watched it. But before Jennifer Carpenter's character goes into the bank, she's kind of like looking in the reflection in the mirror and kind of straightening her hair and kind of pulling herself together. And you actually see that bulletproof van that the robbers are driving drive past in the reflection in the mirror. But so they end up
the bank pulls up right to the front door. Right, blocking the front door, and it doesn't send off any signals to anybody, and that's probably true. You could, but they're in there a long time, and to think that nobody press anything, it's like no, dude. There's an alarm by your knee. There's one at your foot. They have them all. They have the silent alarm everywhere. But the other thing was that with the van was that like. You had to pay a fortune for that van. The van is armored up. Like it's got airless tires. It's got steel it's got steel plates on the bottom, steel in the back. And then when they knock the van over with the Oldsmobile drives 5 miles an hour and then knocks the whole steel loaded armored van onto its side. Like, no, dude. I get it.
So yeah,
Again,
so they
traumatized, but
so they get the manager, take them to the vault. They open the vault. They're loading up the gold, right? And then at that point we see we kind of skipped over a lot, didn't we? Because
Yes,
we
we've been
skipped
jumping
over.
around.
Yeah. So basically, after the police officers get put on unpaid leave, and then they go to that, I forget the guy's name, the criminal contact. They find out about this heist that's happening or whatever. This guy, they trail the guy, and eventually, how do they find out about the robbery? They trail the guy. They see the duffel bags and all that stuff. They find the getaway drivers, and basically
yeah.
that's.
Yeah.
So they're tailing
Well,
them, and then they find them to the parking garage where they find the van, and they follow the van to the robbery.
Well, they did the stakeout. So he got the contact from Udo Kier about the stucco place, as they call it, and it has a room that's not there. So they think that the guy is trafficking heroin, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And they stake it out for like 3 days, which is, I thought that part was pretty good.
Yeah.
They're sleeping in the car and all that stuff. And then they see the two guys get there, and then they leave with the German guy.
Mhm.
So then they follow that car, and then they follow him to the van. Then they walk past the thing, then they follow the van to the bank robbery. So I thought that was pretty good because it shows the kind of chain of custody of like following these guys. But it's weird because at that point they still don't know what they're getting in for, right? And they also blatantly, I mean, Vince Vaughn again points out, he's like, we could have called this in, and they drive by and they see blood on the window, and they see
That's
the woman
crazy. They see the dead body laying on the floor. Yeah, and they're like, oh man.
But I guess their way of dealing with that is like, look, that's already happened, and we didn't, and also they didn't do it. The bad guys did it, and so now we gotta, if anything, we're gonna catch the guys, or we're gonna find out where the loot is going, and then they follow the loot forever, right? And it's like, do you see anything in your rear view mirrors? Then why are you signaling? And the guy's like, I don't know. It's fucking habit, man. But there's clearly a guy behind us because he's been following us for 3 days.
I always use a turn signal if nobody's behind me. Not,
Right. Yeah. You don't want to get pulled. It's like, dude, I don't want to get pulled, man. You got 3.
I'm following the rules of the road, dude.
But then again, if they got pulled, then they got 3 psychos in the back who would light them up.
That's a good point, though, to bring up, though, because the getaway drivers are a whole different crew than the black gloves and gray gloves. Black gloves and gray gloves are psychos. They bring a hostage with them. They take off. Then the cops are, the detectives that we know, Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson, are tailing them. The getaway drivers see them tailing them, but they don't say anything to the guys in the back who keep asking them, "Is anybody following us? Is anybody following us?" No, we're good. And you think, like, what's going on here? Like, why don't they want to?
Also, why would the getaway drivers think for a second that they're going to get away with it?
Right, that they're going to let them live, because as soon as you see these guys are psychos, like, they're going to kill you. Like,
I mean, that guy just lit up a Korean in a fucking stop and go.
It becomes very obvious too. Like they're like, okay, take your gun, put it in the glove box. Like, it becomes very obvious that you're now the mark. Even though you thought you were on our side. Like, no, now.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to bring. I saw this comment in the chat. I don't know if y'all had any thoughts on this. Evan said it's supposed to be heavy-handed to mirror the oversaturation of materialism and hyper-reality of our culture. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? I think that's an interesting,
for sure,
an interesting point.
I think it definitely is purposefully heavy-handed.
I don't think it's hyper-reality. It's not a hyper-reality. A hyper-reality is a kind of it's almost surrealistic or like metaphysical when you're watching, because the way that things converge, like in a Don DeLeo, if Don DeLeo did a robbery story, right? It's the way that would be the way that there are weird connections and convergences based on outer events that are bigger than them. And that you could argue that is the case in this, but it's not. They're not coming from above or a power structure. They're coming from below in the grittiness of their lives. So it's weird. You can't really have a hyper real story when you have a kind of an over realism in terms of the grittiness of like a 70s cinema. The two don't really go together.
Noir is stylized,
right.
And it's definitely stylized. I definitely agree with the heavy-handedness. Yeah, I think it's purposefully heavy-handed. I think it's meant to have.
a good movie that I think that maybe would be an example of like a hyper reality and an oversaturation of materialism would be like this movie that I just watched, Good Time, by the Safdie brothers. That'd probably be a hyper real movie, because it's a crime movie the same way, but nothing ends up happening in the end. There's certainly like no like good resolution, and it's kind of a postmodern just anxiety. The whole movie just anxiety, and this movie is not anxiety inducing. It's
this movie's like a mix between a comedy, a noir, I don't even know. It's got an identity crisis going on, you know.
It's a 2-star burn. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Y'all keep it rolling.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, if y'all are enjoying the show, make sure to click the like button. If you want to throw any super chats out there, I know BLA put the cash tags in there. Are my links not working? I'm gonna have to make a new one. But
working.
I can put we can put the tags back in. If you want to, don't feel obligated. We would certainly appreciate it. But yeah, if you're enjoying the show, click the like. Big way to help is to leave a comment afterwards. If you have any thoughts, any questions, anything you want to throw in, or if you just want to help the algorithm, throw a comment on there. So I don't know, where do you want to go next?
It's not working. I think because I don't know why it's not working. But sometimes they just don't work. They're broken. But I put mine in there and Jerry's in there. So we're going to split it 3 ways, no matter if anybody wants to donate. So would appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean, there's the bank robbery, and I think that the scenes where we're supposed to have like an establishing of characterization, they're too much. We don't get enough of Vince Vaughn. And even when we do, it's kind of, I don't know, your video's frozen, but that's probably your feed. But mine's, yeah, there we go. All right, so yeah, we're good. So I think that I just compare this to, you can see the pedigree that he's trying to establish here, right? It's like I don't know if this is a neo-noir. I'm not sure if it is. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be, but I'm not sure that it is. I see this as more of a Bronson film, right? This is like a 70s Bronson film, and we're supposed to have, I get it that we're supposed to have all of the elements of society, right? We've got the woman working, we've got the bad guys, we've got the uber bad guys that are foreigners, we've got the cops, we've got the victims, we've got the, all these different people, but they don't really converge in a way. It's almost just like well, I guess you could make an argument that in a way this is supposed to be about how crime is sort of just loose-ended, right? That like, how are they going to solve the stop and go crime, right? I mean, I guess they'll pick up all the shells, but you notice that one weird thing was at the end when Vince Vaughn is shooting with the sniper rifle, he says shells, and he picks up the shells, and then he just throws them in the car. I was like, that was weird. He just threw them in the car. I guess because they're going to
later
lake.
Yeah.
They're going to put the car in the lake, but I thought he was going to collect the shells and then, everything. I say that because everything else that Vince Vaughn had done in the movie, I noticed when he took the stick of gum out when he was on the fire escape, and I was thinking, I don't know why I was drawn to this, but I was thinking like he's going to chuck the trash from the gum, like fuck it, right? But instead he puts it in his pocket. He eats the food and then he puts the trash in the car, and it's so then I was thinking like he's going to take the shells, he's going to put them in your pocket. Don't put them in your pocket. They'll get mixed in with the other quarters, which it is, right? But
Vince Vaughn plays the polar opposite character, that he does in Brawl and Cell Block 99. And he's such a badass in Brawl, and then in this one, he's like such a, like, I don't know, like he is also a badass in this one, but he's like totally different character.
He's like shoot the gas tank, and he's like the gas, and he's like the gas here, and he's like no, shoot the gas tank. Weird dialogue in that part.
Yeah.
But I like how he's crouched under the car and he's like, no, their line of sight can't reach this side of the car. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, but they can shoot right through the trunk. It's not an engine block.
Right.
That's weird. Well, and I guess, I don't know, the gas tank would be armored too, I would think.
Right.
On the bottom. So
Yeah, the whole thing would be. I know we're jumping around a lot, but they're we're just discussing themes here. We do it live over here. Just to go back, we indeed do it live. Something I wanted to go back to. There was a scene. It was kind of, I guess, touching in a way, where you saw Mel Gibson's character, Ridgman, even though he is kind of a hard case, like he really does care about his family. And there's a scene where the girl, I guess is his daughter, is he's sitting there watching the show with her, and then his wife comes and sits down, and they're watching a show about lion cubs. And so Sarah, the daughter, makes this comment and says they're so cute before they get big. And so I took that as sort of a statement being made about, and she didn't mean it this way, obviously, but it's I took it to be a statement about all the people in the film, because we see the kids out on the street, right, who harassed her and threw the drink at her, and her mom mentions how, it's just like bullying, but it's going to be worse eventually, implying terrible kind of assault. And then you see these people who through choices, life circumstances, whatever, is it's cute kids or whatever. But then everybody grows up, and we see these people, even though we don't see them as children, but we see them becoming, everybody in the film pretty much becoming more hard, more kind of grizzled, more jaded, more angry, more brutal. I mean, it's a very brutal film, like in every sense of the word. And so I think that's kind of a statement about how, it's what about how, the circumstances that people are in change who they are.
I would agree. I think it's if anything, it's a film about how everybody's just trying to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like with the mom, right? Going back to the apartment, and the mom's like tricking or whatever, and she's like, "Look, you've been locked up. I'm just trying to make it." All right, she's just doing what she can or whatever. Okay. And how the scene with the lion cub mirrors the scene with the bad guy and his son or brother,
yeah.
The disabled younger brother, because he's in there gaming, right? He's playing video games. And he says to him at the end of the film, remember that video game we were playing, like right before all the stuff happened, all before our lives changed? And he wants to share this moment with him. But it is kind of funny because he walks in, and I literally thought he was going to open the door and go, "Are you winning, son?"
Right.
Well, yeah, because he actually says at the end of the movie, the last line, it zooms in on Henry's face, and he's like, I actually wrote down the exact line. He says, "Let's hunt some lions."
Uh-huh.
And so it obviously is a call back to that kind of scene. And it's a very, I guess, I don't know if it's you could say that you can kind of put everybody in this film into two they're either predator or prey. It seems like for, pretty much all the characters.
Yes, and the predators become prey.
Yeah.
All right. Or it's a "we was Kangs" moment. But I think that I think because they want anyway, whatever. Gloss over that. So but I think
you're canceled, Bazed.
No, I think that oh shit, I don't know.
Oh damn, Dave Jyer just said he tried watching Deer Hunter and it put him to sleep. Deer Hunter put you to sleep?
Well, okay, so
it is a long movie.
If you haven't seen the film, it's Michael Cimino, right? And it's the first
brutal.
The first third of the movie is supposed to do that in a way. It's supposed to lull you into this sense of security where they're in, Philadelphia and they have family life and it's outdoors. But
that movie's depressing as fuck,
if the second part put you to sleep, then you're a true Sigma.
Yeah, I guess. Right. You got no heart.
the second third of the movie opens with Robert De Niro throwing a bunch of Charlie, and he's flame throwing them.
I would definitely recommend getting through it. It's a good film. It's definitely one to see, man. That's a classic. But yeah, no, the beginning is definitely slow for sure.
Evan said, "Wonder what Tarantino thinks of Zahler." I think that he probably...
I think they're friends, honestly, and I think that that's something that because there's no way that Tarantino didn't respect Bone Tomahawk. There's no way he didn't, because that's right up his alley, especially with the Kurt Russell connection between that and Hateful Eight. And I think that between Brawl and this film, he became buddies with Tarantino because Zahler's dialogue in this film is way more Tarantino-esque than in all of his other films, which I think is to its detriment, which is what we were talking about in the beginning about how this film is overrated, much like Tarantino's modern films are overwritten. And I think that he started hobnobbing with Tarantino. Honestly, I really do. And I think it's kind of rubbed off on him.
I find this movie to be a bit derivative. It's a bit derivative of Tarantino. And that's not to say that I'm sure I agree with what you were just saying. I'm sure that, it's like, look, this young whippersnapper comes along and he's trying to make Tarantino movies. And that's fine.
And they're better than Tarantino films. The first two, I think, are better than anything Tarantino's put out in a long time.
I haven't seen his other films, so I can't.
Really, you gotta, dude. They're so good, dude. They're so good. They're my favorite movies of all time. At this
I will say that Tarantino is. I did not like the Inglourious Bastards. I didn't
like any of the new Tarantino films. I think they're garbage
because I don't like how the good guys do what they think the bad guys are doing, and they just do it worse. I don't like, and I'm not trying to put like a moral viewpoint on the Tarantino movie, but like that's the movie, and I don't like it. I find it like gratuitous that they would do that, and I'm not one to shy away from like the gratuitous violence in a Tarantino film. I just don't think it is true there, and I definitely don't like the movie the what's not Django? What's the other Western?
I hated Django.
Hateful Eight.
I didn't like that one either, and I didn't like Hateful Eight. I didn't like Hateful Eight because I don't like how is it Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what they do to Jennifer Jason Leigh in the movie, and I just find it just gratuitous. I just thought, and I'm like, dude, this movie is 4 hours. I get it that the exterior is supposed to be slow and snowy, and they're stuck in this cabin and all this stuff. And I get all the different levels of society, and we're going to all meet up, and things are going to converge, and who done it? It's like it's too much like Clue with violence, and I just
one of the members of the cast of Hateful Eight actually commented about how they felt like Tarantino ruined his own setup at how he just like everybody gets killed at the end. They're like, really? You set all this stuff up and then you're just gonna end it with like pow pow pow? Like it's like I don't know. It's like you just wasted the whole setup.
Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood works because it's a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that film either. I honestly think that's like the worst one. I like Hateful Eight more than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'll admit that.
You didn't like that because it didn't have Weinstein involved, and you're a big Weinstein.
I miss Harvey, dude.
I like that movie because I thought it was unpredictable when I saw it. It was completely unpredictable, and it's Once Upon a Time. It's a fairy tale version of the Manson murders, and I thought that it was good how it ended because they get their comeuppance, and that's fine. Even though it's the Hollywood guys doing it, and that's not the true story of what happened, whatever. But that being said, it's also too long. It's too much. There's too much dialogue. There's too much, and I think that movies in general are, I've seen some good movies recently. But to make movies now, it's like, I just feel like, look, man, make something. Obviously the studio is going to go, either you're going to make a Marvel movie or you're going to make a sword and sandals epics are still a thing,
like a reboot of something old,
or you're going to make a reboot that has a built-in blueprint for what's successful, or you're going to make a vehicle, a biopic.
Yeah,
the biopic is like, how many of these movies can we have of these musicians, like a biopics, or you're going to make a Tarantino movie, right? And it's like, make something original. So I thought this one.
I'm telling you, man, you got to check out Brown Cell Block 99. You got to check that one out, dude. It's my favorite film of all time. Honestly, I think it's the best new film to ever come out. And so that one, watch it, dude. It's so good.
I did like the resolution at the end of this. Not to skip to the end of the movie, but I did like the resolution at the end of the movie with when he puts the 38 to the guy's head, and then the guy quick draws and shoots him, and it was kind of like a Western there. It was kind of almost like a Mexican standoff because it's like us and then the two characters. So there's three people involved. And I like when he says to him, like, why did you do that, man? I was going to honor this agreement, right? Which is something that the movies do that is not true in terms of they always make it out like no honor among thieves, right? When actually the reality,
that's all the thieves got. Is their honor. That's all they got. And that's what Jack Black talks about in where's the book? I got it over here. That's what the whole book's about, is how all you have in the underworld is your reputation. That's all you got. and that's it. If the other thieves know that they can't trust you, then you're nobody and you're not going to get any work. But if they know your good name, that's all you got. Like,
well, also in the sense in this movie, like the bad guys have the gold bullion, right? They've got, but you know that you can trust that they are not going to let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in a sense, it's kind of a reversal of that. But at least we, the audience, like figure, why would these guys let him go? But they're dealing with like however many millions in gold bullion. They're a crew. It's not, they don't even share the same culture, and they make that plain because the guy we hear, and he's like, "You mean we're here or we are here?" And at that point, I was like, "Okay, this is the signal that like you cannot fucking." I mean, on the one hand, the guy would have just shot him, right, because he disagreed with him. But on the other hand, it's like, no, these guys do not like you, and they're not going to let
using you. Yeah.
But like with Mel, you know, that's one thing that Heat does well is that the bad guys are a crew and they're going to stick together. We know they're going to do that. In this, there's honor in the sense that he sends the money to Mel Gibson's family. He does that.
Yeah.
But that's one guy, right?
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I think that, for people who haven't seen it, to give more context, when Mel Gibson's character pulls a gun on Tory Kittles' character at the end, it's because he had told him, Henry, Tory Kittles' character, had said, "Oh yeah, when y'all were having that shootout with, the like insane robbers," he was like, "I was up there filming." He's like, "I saw you shoot the female hostage," and he correctly tells him that you like oaths mean nothing to you, and so it's like you see, like you were saying that he, Vince Vaughn's character gets smoked, and then he's just like, move on, and so that's why, and I think that, and this is kind of interesting because like Mel Gibson's character's wife, like straight up basically says that she's racist. And I think that, and he doesn't ever come out and say that, but I think that there's that it's sort of implied that that's like that plays into why he doesn't trust this guy is because Tory Kittles' character is black. And so that's why he doesn't think that he's going to be, like a trustworthy, honest type of person.
He lives in a predominantly black neighborhood, and it's the black people that attacked his daughter. And so, that's the start of the film. He's already got bias.
It was weird though when she said that, because why would that thought enter your mind when the fact was that like you live in this neighborhood, you're part of the neighborhood, this happens to her, but it's like this is the world you live in, and this is the reality. But I thought to bring that into it was weird, because it's like, no, it's not necessarily that she's been assaulted by a certain group of people. It's just that she's been assaulted, and you live in this shit neighborhood, and your life sucks. Right. And he even says like, there's something we could do about it, but I can't discuss it here. It's like, well, then do something.
Yeah.
Right. But he never does. I guess that's why he leaves, and he goes and does the job in the first place. But I thought it was weird that the wife says that, because she's also a former cop.
Yeah.
Right.
She says
weird dialogue.
She's like, well, I'm as liberal as like a former cop can get. And it's interesting though, that I think it shows that like everybody, I think there's a social commentary there in that everybody is screwed up, right? It's not just the kids throwing drinks at people on the sidewalk. Like, yeah, they're screwed up by, their circumstances in society, but they're no more or less screwed up than any of the other characters in the film. Like everybody is in, except for, like Udo Kier's character and Don Johnson, like they're living the high life, compared to everybody else. But yeah, it's like everybody is feeling the effects of living in like such the city's almost, it's almost like Gotham-like, and in like the Gotham that we see in Christopher Nolan's trilogy, it kind of reminded me of Gotham in that sense, and how like everybody's just warped and screwed up as a result of living in that kind of environment.
I didn't get the throwing the drink on the girl. Okay, I get what happened, but I see who threw the drink on her, and I'm like, I don't think so. I'm sure that happens, but it's like, that seems like something that would happen at school, not on the street when she's walking home through a neighborhood. I don't think that didn't seem true to me. I don't know.
I had somebody throw a drink at me when I was walking down the street.
Yeah, but you're a dude.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that makes
it's
sense.
different. This is like a 14-year-old girl walking home, and I just don't. I just didn't see that. I don't know.
I was like 14, 15, right around that age too. Yeah, I was walking. It was me, a bunch of friends. I think somebody it was somebody I knew that was like didn't like me or something because they got me right hardcore, and we're walking, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And then so we're walking up to 7-Eleven, and then on the way back it happened again, and I'm like, dude, that's somebody that knows me. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck that guy.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm not going to tell my own story, but yeah. All right. It was worse than that. I was 13. But whatever. Somebody popped me in the face on the street and one of my shoes. And this was at the time when people were getting killed for their Nikes and stuff.
Right.
But I'm a dude, so it's different. But I don't know.
One other thing that was interesting is with Henry's character is to have been in prison and to have grown up, like have had a rough upbringing. He's in a way he's like incredibly naive, because he actually, and I wrote this down, he actually says that he tells Ridgman that no one was supposed to get shot unless they pulled a gun. And then Ridgman kind of wryly asks him, he's like, did you actually believe that? And it's like, why did you think that these people, and I mean, it's sort of implied that they didn't have a lot of contact with these people, the three bank robbers leading up to it. But it's like, dude, just to see how these people are showing up, in these kind of, balaclavas with the goggles and, the tactical gear and full auto. It's like, you should know that these people, they're not gonna, just be like, oh yeah, we're not gonna hurt anybody unless, they pull a gun on us.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he's trusting his buddy who set the deal up, He's trusting his buddy, let his buddy talk him into it. He should know better. And then once you're in the situation, he should know better, even more so. And he does. And I think he trusts his own gut that like he's gonna get through it one way or another. They even say that to each other, like, we'll get through this. I think I'm pretty sure at one point they're saying that. And he does end up getting through it.
He did. So he did trust his gut enough to stash the gun up front. He found the right time to get out of the car, right, and to get away. He didn't leave. He didn't run away. And also, like, he was set up. How was he set up? He was set up through somebody that he knew in the joint, right? So that's pretty true to life, because there's a crew. They need a driver. And they know you from the joint, so they're going to pick you up, right? And you're the guy. And then once he's in it, what's he going to do? I don't like this, and then get out? No, he's in it. And also, he's desperate for his family, to get money for his family. So he thinks there's a way out. And like you said, I mean, he gets it. He does get out. And just like how Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn are also desperate. They don't know what they're getting into. They get a call from a guy who knew a guy. They follow him. So the two kind of converge in that sense. So, they don't know what they're getting into and they get away. I like that the guy got away. The way that the beginning of the film's, the way the film starts mirrors the end, because again, he films him, right? Yeah. So he films him, and he's got the gun. He's in a car with the guy just like he was at the beginning, but it's a different guy. So I thought that mirrored it. The whole scene with burying his friends, I thought was an extraneous thing that didn't need to be in the film. I didn't know where that went. It's like, oh, we're going to show this guy's character. He's going to take the time to actually bury the guys. That was odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. He mentioned to his friend, like, I mean, obviously he was dead, but he was like, oh yeah, like, sorry to have to bury you next to cops. But that was kind of odd, because there was never, like, neither Biscuit nor Henry ever, expressed any kind of explicit anti-cop sort of viewpoint. And so I thought that was kind of odd. Like, why is he, unless
they're
it was kind
criminals,
of offhanded comment?
and criminals are going to naturally have a, when you're a professional criminal like that, that's your enemy.
And
true.
One of them pointed out astutely that, like, look, all the collars that we've had, probably 3/4 we could take up an entire wing with all the people that we put in there.
Yeah.
So they have a personal connection to this sort of thing, vice versa, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Want to be buried next to a fucking cop, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But I thought that was the part with the somebody just brought up with the gut Evan just brought up the gut. That scene was wild because he swallows the key, right? And then he regurgitates it, and then he swallows it again. And then, of course, they got to take the time to don't open the liver up because it'll stank and all that stuff. That was fucking bug. That was pretty gratuitous.
Oh, it was extremely gratuitous. Yeah. They got to cut open the guy to get the key, and they make the point to make it extra realistic, Yes. Because they're in this enclosed space inside this van. They have to try to get it.
And it's what was crazy, and I think this was something that points to just like how insane and just sociopathic and evil these people are, that through the dialogue, I mean, it shows you that they're not, that like this is not the first time they've done this. Like it alludes to the fact that they have, cut open and dug through, like both of them have cut open and dug through multiple bodies.
They're ex-military.
Oh, right.
Be ex-military.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The kit that they have, their tactics, they're ex-military. Just like Vince Vaughn is ex-military with the thing. But like, usually, I think one thing that crime movies show that is probably true to life is that guys that do this have some sort of military or tactical experience. Like, you don't learn that just doing a liquor store robbery when you're like 17 or whatever. I mean, they're technical, they're precise.
Yeah.
And the guy has the knife and they cut right into it. They show no emotion and they just get on with business.
So that's a good point. So I'm kind of
I keep getting these Tumblr followers, which is weird. I didn't even know I still had my Tumblr. I had a synthesizer. Like my thing was all synth, right? And it's from like 2012 or something like that. All of a sudden, somebody must have reposted like a Daft Punk synth picture or something, and it's either that or it's bots, and I'm supposed to click, and I'm not going to. But anyway, I don't know what that's about.
So I was getting towards the end of my notes, and not saying we have to wrap the stream up necessarily, but one of the things that there were two thoughts I had, and one of them that was interesting is there was these odd food mentions throughout the film. So like when Henry at the end, his way of saying like, oh yeah, it's all good, it's all cool. He kept saying it's all cotton candy. And then multiple times throughout the film, Loracetti, Vince Vaughn's character, he says anchovies as if it's an expletive. And I didn't know what to make it. I thought it was a very odd way of phrasing thing, and especially the anchovies and then
just character building,
Yeah.
But that was odd. You're right, that was odd. It was also odd when the guy says dead possum, refrigerator, dead rat.
Yeah.
And the other guy repeats it, and I thought, am I in some sort of meta world where I'm going to figure out either that these two guys are in communication with each other? Tory Kittles is an undercover cop. He's feeding Vince Vaughn clues and information, or is this like a MK Ultra thing, or is this some sort of dissociation? What is this? Why are they giving these coded messages for very precise things on the side of the road? And I guess it's to show that the two guys are mirrored, maybe like in terms of their character. But the anchovy thing also was very odd. Anchovies. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was weird. And then another kind of odd character quirk was, and Vince Vaughn's character actually kind of snaps at him for it, is Ridgman, like he just keeps assigning statistical or like percentage probability. Like, oh, what's the probability of this happening? Oh, 50%, A word, 80-20, 85-15. And he actually gets annoyed with him at one point because he just over and over and over just assigns probabilities to every situation.
Was his name Richmond?
Ridgman.
Yeah. Oh man, I thought it was Richmond. I was really into it.
I love the way he assigns probabilities, though. And as the night goes on, it gets worse and worse. I like that. I thought that was a great little part of it.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was an interesting character kind of quirk. I liked that one.
Yeah.
Sex Panther. It's illegal in 9 countries. 78% of the time, it works every time. I don't even know what that means.
Hey, you mind if I dip out early, guys?
Yeah, all good.
All right, cool.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
guys for
on. It
having
was
me
great
on.
having you.
And
All
thanks
right,
everybody
homeboy.
for being here. And much love to all you guys.
Check your
And-
cash app. Maybe somebody
Oh,
dropped
I've
you.
been checking. Ain't nobody sent nothing.
That's okay.
So,
Well, we
you guys
appreciate.
you guys split whatever y'all got, and I love you guys.
All right,
All
love
right,
you, man.
peace.
Appreciate you.
Peace.
Thanks
Peace.
for coming on.
Yeah, we're not doing it. We're not doing it for the gold bullion.
No,
Right.
I would. I mean, I could use some gold bullion.
Yes, I could use some Krugerrands. But yes, guys, listen, go back up in the chat. Should I drop the link one more time just in case? I'll drop mine. I'm gonna drop mine one more time here just in case. And if anybody wants to donate, click that link. I've been putting in some hours today, dude. I've been on the computer since 2:00. So
yes, I didn't realize you were doing. I didn't realize you were doing a triple header today.
Well, the first one I was with my homeboys in this Kubrick group that we have. We're working on doing something with about Stanley Kubrick that we're putting out some media.
Okay.
So we meet every week and analyze Kubrick. It's just dudes being dudes talking about Stanley Kubrick. So we did that for 2 hours. My homeboy, shouts out to Ryan and Lukeski out there. And then I did you guys please go to my channel and check out the Midnight in Paris, American Expatriates, Rambo, Ezra Pound, Henry Miller, Ernest Hemingway stream that I did earlier today, and check out the ones that I did earlier in the week. And I've got a bunch coming up. Also, shameless plug, I'm going to be on with our homeboy Church of the Eternal Logos, David Patrick Carey. Next week, we'll be doing maybe I shouldn't say. I'll leave it that up. But we'll be doing a film, and it has one of the major stars. It's based Mel. We're doing a very well-known Mel Gibson film next week on Church of the Eternal Logos, so that'll be good. And also, I don't know if he's watching, but shouts out to IPAC Arts, IPAK.ARTS, who does my thumbnails. I haven't been able to get them in the last week because well, whatever. I'm a broke ass right now, so please donate to me. I'll share it with Kutski here and Jerry. And got a lot of good stuff coming up. So should we wrap it up about this movie?
Yeah. I was just gonna say I had one more point I was gonna make, and I was gonna say that the Midnight in Paris stream was great, and if I have time, I'm gonna watch it tonight because I've actually not seen that one, and so I like Owen Wilson. He's not the best actor in the world, but I like his movies. I think he does well, with what he does.
But Owen Wilson isn't trying to be the best actor in the world. Yeah. And that's what I like about him, that he plays himself. And in this, it's weird because he's more himself, it seems, in this movie than in other movies. And yet he's this other character. And I believe he's Gil. I believe he's the other character. Mm-hmm. Because what I like about this movie is that he is, he's passionate about his art and about Paris and about love. But he is like a man. He's objective and he's not over emotional about it. And he believes in, like, he's the Cinderella boy, right? In the movie. I mean, it's a Cinderella movie, right? Essentially. And you want him to win. You want his battle axe wife to go away, and you want him to win. You want him to get with Leah Seydoux or with Marion Cotillard, both of whom are, especially Marion Cotillard, is just she's so beautiful. That's what he says in Caddyshack. Marron, when he sees Lacey Underall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But
that was
it's good because it's a good positive movie that is not infantile,
right?
And it's about just it's beautiful. So it's beautiful. Mel Gibson. Somebody asked about Joaquin Phoenix doing the Napoleon movie. I think he's still making that. Of course, Kubrick tried to do the Napoleon movie. And Marlon Brando was in the Napoleon. Have you ever seen that movie with Marlon Brando playing Napoleon?
No.
It's called Desiree.
Okay.
Really funny. He's like, oh, listen, we're gonna have to take the Continental Army, and we're gonna have to fight the British. Okay. It's very weird. It's very weird as a Marlon Brando Napoleon movie.
Was this young Brando, or was this like 400-pound Brando?
This was early 60s Brando. So Brando had like 3 phases. He had the 50s Brando, where he did On the Waterfront, and Streetcar Named Desire, and Julius Caesar, and The Young Lions. By the way, Young Lions is a great film. And where he's a German soldier in a certain time in love with a girl named Francoise. And then he had the 60s movies where he fell off, and he did Desiree and this movie Candy, which is actually really funny. It's got Richard Burton as Dylan Thomas, and a bunch of other films. And then he had the 70s with, Godfather and Apocalypse Now. I guess then he had the Freshman movie with, and he had Don. Have you ever seen Don Juan DeMarco with Jonathan Depp and Marlon Brando?
No, I've heard that one's good, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's actually pretty good. And then he was in The Score. In the movie The Score with Robert De Niro, and Marlon Brando is the crime figure who hooks him up with The Score. He told him, I don't want you to film me from the neck down. And they were like, we have to. You walk into the scene. And he was like, all right, we'll see if you do it. So he filmed all of his scenes with no underwear on. Like no pants. He just came in like nothing. And they were like, we can't film you like this. And he was like, I guess you're gonna have to put a blue screen. Right. So he was like,
what a weirdo.
Totally weird. He did Mutiny on the Bounty in the 60s also. And that's the movie where he's really that one's pretty good. And that's the movie where he went to Tahiti and he met his wife. She's in the movie. And and that's why he lived in Tahiti for the rest of his life, because of Mutiny on the Bounty. But I was watching that movie Patton. Have you seen that?
A long time ago.
Man, I rewatched it last night. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But Patton is a great movie because it's George C. Scott. He won Best Actor for it. He didn't accept the award. This is before Brando, when he sent Sashi Littlefeather up to accept the award.
Oh, yeah.
George C. Scott won in 1970, and ceremony was in 71, and he didn't accept it because he said that that the Oscars was a, quote, meat parade, and he was not in competition with his other actors or the other actors in the category. So he refused to go. And then they nominated him again the next year, and he was like, I don't want the nomination. So I like George C. Scott. He's from Virginia. Patton is great because it's Francis Ford Coppola. He wrote the screenplay, and he won Best Screenplay for it. And but I noticed something in the movie that's weird. I was telling Jethro about this, that whenever they show Yodel and the OKW, our German high command, all the scenes are set in this weird Dr. Strangelove Star Trek way, where there's like computers and robotics in the background and pneumatic doors. And when they show Patton, it's always set in these palatial residences. And they do make a case, though, in the movie that, that he was murked out by Carl, maybe Omar Bradley had something to do with it, who knows, but they did not like Patton. And I also remembered that Patton wrote a poem, really good. He goes to the site of the Roman defeat of Carthage because he's in North Africa. And this really happened in real life. He pulls off, he says, take a right here. And they're like, sir, the battlefield is straight. And he's like, I can smell a battlefield. And so he says, take a right. So he takes him right. And he comes upon the razed city of Carthage. And he says, this is where the Romans defeated the Carthaginians. They had a phalanx over here, and they maneuvered from here, and they outflanked them here. And he says, how did you know that? And he goes, I was here. I was a hoplite. And he says, through his poems begins through the travail. He says, as the poet said, through the travail of the ages, midst the pomp and toil of war, I fought and strove and perished countless times upon this star. And they say, who wrote that? And he says, I did. And later there's a scene where he meets with the British generals, and they say, you would have made a good marshal in Napoleon's army. And he says, oh, but I was in Napoleon's army. I was. Toujours. No das, toujours, no das. Because Patton believed, he thought that he'd been reincarnated through the ages, like for the purpose of war.
Right.
Which is crazy. And he's actually buried. I don't know why I'm on about Patton, but Patton believed that soldiers should be buried where they stand or where they die. Sorry. And so he's buried off the battlefield in like Luxembourg or Belgium.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and one last thing about Patton, this is really good. So the dudes in the audience might like this. That they asked Patton, they gave him a different battle plan, and he said, I could pierce through the what do you call it? It's part of the Schlieffen plan. The is it the Maginot Line? I could pierce through the armaments in Europe in a day. Give me enough gas to do it, and I'll make it all the way to Berlin. We're like 10 days from Berlin, I can make it. And they said, you can't make it through the armaments. And he said, look, first of all, we know the Germans are in defeat because they're using carts. And I remember when I was in the Continental Army retreating from Moscow, and I remember the snow and the desolation, and all we had were carts. So he was going back to his like prior memory or whatever. And he says, this is how I know they're in defeat, right? And he said the provisions of man and the battlements of man are a monument to man's hubris, essentially, because if mountains and valleys can be traversed by man, then so can some fucking battle, a battlefield. Right. So anyway, that's a great film. Great film. I don't know why
I need to rewatch that one. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But one thing I was thinking of, since you mentioned Coppola, we were talking the other night about the front man for Rooney, who was in The Princess Diaries. I didn't, because I looked that guy up, and I couldn't remember his name, and I didn't realize this. It turns out, and it's Robert Schwartzman, who is, his mother is Talia Shire, who is what Coppola's sister, and Jason Schwartzman is his brother, and Nick Cage and Sofia Coppola are their cousins. Yes. So I didn't realize he was part of the kind of Coppola Schwartzman family. So I was like, that's an interesting thing I hadn't realized before.
Yeah, and Jason Schwartzman, star of Rushmore.
Yeah,
also one of the cousins, or he's the first cousin of Sofia. Sofia Coppola is married to the lead singer of Phoenix, Thomas Mars.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I was kind of. I mean, just to jump back to the film. The one last thing I thought was kind of interesting was the name of the city that they were in, Bulwark.
Yeah,
which is, just like, I actually looked up, I was like, what's the precise definition? Which is just a defensive wall.
Right.
And so I think the sort of implication there is there's kind of multiple levels where people are sort of acting, you have the cops who are like acting as the defensive wall against the crime. You have, Tory Kittles' character who's sort of acting as a defensive wall against any further harm befalling his mother and his brother. And so these people kind of take the beating as the wall as they're trying to, defend what they care about and, their families or their communities or whatever it may be. So I thought it was sort of an interesting.
I thought about that when I was watching the movie, because really the only times that they pierce the bulwark are when or rather overrun it or go through the gate, is when he goes to the weird store that's the clothes. It's he goes to like a Saks or whatever. And Udo Kier has the office in the back of the store, right? He's not busy. It's weird that he has that office in the back of the store, but it just shows you, I guess, that this guy's he's part of the Gotham. It's weird because you were saying it's almost like Gotham, but it's almost like there is a Gotham, but it's not in the movie except in that and in the bank scene. Right. And the rest of it on the outskirts, because they spend so much time driving on the outskirts, and then they go to the warehouse and they find the car, and then they're in the basement of the parking garage, and they're at the stucco place, and they're in all these places that are kind of, they're like ancillary to the metropolis, but they're not quite in it. They're not part of it. I mean, even Don Johnson, who has ascended to his position, whatever it is, works for the establishment, and he's got this office that's kind of brighter, and he's got this view of the city. We get that at the end when the guy lives in the bright, gleaming, shining place, and the mother's getting the back massage from Christoph or whatever. But another thing is that the son, it's interesting also that the son, or the brother rather, the disabled brother, his life only changes on the exterior, right?
Right.
Because in the beginning, he's playing video games in his room, and at the end, he's playing video games in his room. He's doing the exact same thing, but he's just in different surroundings. But you kind of get the feeling like, look, this kid doesn't give a shit where he is, and that's fine. Right. Good for him. But at least the dad is provided for them so that they can, I don't know, do whatever they want, have Christoph come over and do back massages or whatever. But he's wholesome, right? Because the mom says, I'm going to cook you dinner. And he says, good. I love your cooking. Yeah. Right. So it's like all the wives kind of cook for the husbands in the movie. So there's some sort of wholesomeness, but yeah, Toledo says a bit dodgy Patton because he knew too much. Yes. I think that's is probably almost certainly the case. Not to speculate, but that's not really speculation. That's been the conspiracy thinking about it because of, he dodged a traffic accident right before that. Like a cart got loose. Cart got loose and went down the street, and a guy put his adjutant pushed him out of the way. And then later he was in a car accident. And then maybe it might have been James, what's his name? James Corbett, who did a thing on that, and how and the probably MI6 or OSS was involved in the certain operation that took place to take him out. Because one of his things was he was threatening the power structure because he wanted to go all the way to the Soviet Union, and it was too dodgy or whatever. But who knows?
Yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, I think it's a good point. Yeah, about the relationships, and that's, I think, what one of the key themes of the movie is the relationship, because you see that, Henry genuinely cares about his younger brother, and so he doesn't, and he kind of meets him on his own terms, in the sense it's like, if his brother's into video games, like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and play video games with him for as long as he can, and so there are, and the marriages, except for Jennifer Carpenter's character, who her marriage is, always a non-traditional, but the other marriages are, like Mel Gibson does have a sort of traditional kind of marriage, which is interesting to see how that plays out, and that, factors into the characters. And so, and I had something else, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's pretty much the movie. I know we jumped around a lot, but hopefully if y'all haven't seen it, I think it's worth watching. I'm not going to officially recommend it because it is a pretty brutal movie, and it was a lot more violent than I remembered it being from when I'd watched it maybe like 2 years ago. So if you don't mind, gratuitous violence and brutality, then it's worth. Oh, just one thing that was interesting though. I remember what it was. It was, you were mentioning that office that Udo Kier's character had because he goes into the mall, and it's not shown to be like a luxury mall or anything. It just looks like a normal shopping mall.
It does.
But he goes in, it's like, these suits don't have tags. And it's one of those things, like, if you have to ask how much it is, you can't afford it. Right. And he asks, he's like, how much is this? And the girl's like, $5,000. And they kind of give him these snobby looks, like, who is this guy? Why is he here? But then it's like a shopping mall, and he has this office that was kind of, in a way, it was sort of, and I don't know why, this is what it reminded me of, is that scene at the end of Eyes Wide Shut when he goes to what was that guy's name? Ziegler. When he goes to Ziegler's and they're in the pool room, that office kind of seemed to almost resemble Ziegler's billiard room.
Yeah, like an Eyes Wide Shut room.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, at least it was supposed to mimic that. I mean, he's got a big Oriental rug on the floor, and that's cool. And he's got this teak desk. I thought it was one thing that always puts me off in movies is when the guy walks in and he says, drink, and he pours himself a bourbon from the decanter or whatever. And I'm like, no one does this anymore. Like, no one, you're walking in the middle of the day and the random guy walks in and you're going to offer him a drink. And it's like, you have the bourbon sitting there. That rarely happens anymore. I don't see that. And it's just this device that they use in films. And he's like, no drink, but you're right. It did kind of resemble, I mean, Ziegler's office in that it's a Kubrick film. So that's like a real room, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like, he's got the best billiards table, in the place. But there's also a thing with Ziegler's knocking of the balls on the thing.
Right.
I forget what it is with that. I forget what it is in that. I have to go back and watch it. But anyway, yeah. So man, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys, please hit the like, share the stream, put it on Instagram or wherever you are. Shouts out to our homeboy here, Maddie, Real Cooter Brown, Digital Minefield. Please sub to his channel. Please go to Jury and Exposing Powerful Lies. Please go to my channel at Bazed Lit Analyzer and hit that sub button. If you're watching this, if you came across this somewhere random, please go to my channel, hit that sub button. I could really use it. And please think about supporting us. And I'm sure we'll be back soon. I'm gonna come onto your channel. I'm just gonna run my way into your channel again.
Hey, whenever you want, come on.
Yes. So thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and thanks to Jerry for coming on. Yeah. We always appreciate having any of the homies on. Shout out to Mikhail and from Technor Graphics, Rachel Wilson. Shout out to everybody. Thank you everybody for being in the chat. We had a lot of fun, and hopefully you all enjoyed it. We will be back soon. I don't have any exact topics in mind, but I do have a few things I'm kind of kicking around. So hopefully we'll get back on soon. So y'all have a great night. And subscribe, leave a comment. That definitely helps the algorithm. Or like I said, if you have anything you want to add, any questions, anything like that, subscribe to BLA and Jerry. And thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Yes. Peace.
Oh, I clicked the wrong.